Ben, I still don't see your face.
I'm trying.
Okay.
All right. I got a quorum.
Okay, I will go ahead and mute and let you take over.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Ben Francis with the Columbia Linux User Group, here with Robert Lindsay.
Hello.
And as usual, I can't get my camera to see anything. And yes, the tape is off the camera, so it's not that. But that's okay. I'm going to try. You don't want to see my mug anyway. We got the live stream started. I'll close share doc. Oh, okay. Here we go. Yeah. Share. All right. Live stream's working. That's good. And enable access camera. Dismiss. Okay. So I was kind of hoping to have somebody else here today to present, and Shay is running a little late. And so I'm going to just plug on ahead with iPXE. Hey, Jace, can you unmute the computer so I can talk to the audience at all?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. All right. So has anybody heard of gPXE or Pixie or iPXE before?
I've heard of Pixie, but not gPXE.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've only heard of them. I don't really know that much about them. I think they're implementations of different Pixie protocols or something like that.
Yeah. Well, PXE came out in 1998 from Intel, and this is mainly going to be a web surfing presentation from what I know. So yeah, in 1998, Intel started the Pixie project, which stands for Pre-Boot Execution Environment, which is basically booting from a network device, hopefully from your local area network. Now, there were a lot of problems with the initial Pixie implementation from Intel. It was very buggy, and so it didn't get much adoption, and a lot of people didn't find any use for it. Until chain loading came along, and a project called gPXE, an open source project, came along and said, well, hey, we can take this Pixie thing and do chain loading and hand off the pointers to wherever you're trying to boot from to the gPXE project. And
hey,
then,
Ben.
yeah.
So how does Pixie differ from BootP? Was it an improvement upon it, or what?
Pixie. I've actually never worked with BootP at all. Was that an Apple implementation or what?
Well, no, that's the as far as I know, it was the way you would boot a machine off of the network. before Pixie came along.
Okay. Was Boot P before 1998?
Yeah.
It was. Oh, well, I guess it stands for Boot Protocol. Is that true?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't answer that question. I don't know about Boot P. All I did was start with PXE way back about 10 years when I found that it was possible to boot from the network. And the reason I'm presenting this today is because I gave this presentation about 10 years ago when it was new and fun, and I thought it was cool, and it was cool because it generally worked with the old BIOS firmware that existed in computers at the time. There we go. Trying to let you see what I got going on here. Anyway, yeah, PXE graduated to GPXE, an open source project, and then GPXE died and handed off to IPXE. There was one person that was in charge of the source code for GPXE, and he wasn't sharing a lot, so the rest of the community said, well, we're going to fork it and do IPXE. So that has been the standard for about at least 8 years now, I believe. And so the great thing about IPXE is that you can boot with all these protocols right here. And the one, let's see, so you got HTTP, you got iSCSI SAN, you got SAN fiber channel over Ethernet, you got boot from AOE SAN. Does anybody know what AOE is? Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Boot from a wireless network. That's cool.
I'm sorry, is that ATM over Ethernet? AOE?
All right. Let's just...
Oh, and by the way, I found that it's RFC 943 in 1985. Boot P.
Boot P. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that would be a good thing to know. Sorry, I don't. Yeah, I've never used it. Well, there you go. It stands for Age of Empires. All right, we're gonna go with yours, Shay.
So we can boot off a gaming network then?
Yeah. All right. So boot over wireless. I have not done that yet, but that would be cool. Boot from a wide area network. Boot from InfiniBand, which is a very high bandwidth network that would be used in a data center type environment. And of course, you can also control the process with a script. So the quick start here is you gotta get this CD from this website, and this CD, I know you gotta kind of transport yourself back 10 years and say when we still had CDs, but you can boot from CDs or flash drives or DVDs or whatever. Probably be a flash drive nowadays. So you just flash that to a USB drive and then switch your BIOS to actually boot from the network instead of the disk or the no. You would switch your BIOS to boot from the USB drive, and then that would in turn go to the actual server that's on the internet somewhere, and download the image from the internet and run it on your computer and boot the whole computer. It'd be just like, you know, running a live CD on your computer back when we had bootable CDs and DVDs. What I discovered during that whole process was that it was fun to do that, but there was the option to do to have an image delivered over HTTP, and I found out that it was really fast. HTTP turns out to be a really awesome protocol for downloading large files over a network. And in this case, we're just trying to download an ISO image and use that to boot over the network, and it's really fast. And this was back 10 years ago when I was, you know, the networks were 100 megabit and not gigabit, and it was still fast, especially with Linux. You just download a small version of, you know, 200 megabyte version of Debian or you know, what have you, and it would download in less than a minute, and you could be up and running with a patched version of Debian in under a minute, and I just thought it was really cool. Okay, and that all worked, and it was cool. So let's see, let's go forward to 2015, and there was a guy. Let's see, I'm going to show you. IP. How am I doing? I need to be on. Cool. Okay. What I'm going after is UFI and HTTP boot, which and yeah, this is the one right here.
All right, so this is off.
We're not gonna listen to that whole thing, but it's a fine presentation by this fine gentleman. His name, Dong Wei. And so he came out on October 7th, 2015, met the iPixie guy at this conference right here, LinuxCon Europe. He met Michael Brown, who is the maintainer of iPixie. And he said, "Hey, I'm doing a UFI mini summit or a presentation on UFI." And Michael Brown says, "Oh, well, hey, I'm the maintainer of iPixie. Let me just code up whatever you need for your presentation tomorrow, and we'll present it to everybody." And that really happened. So Michael Brown gets my respect, and I'm just going to cherry pick some slides here, because he goes through his presentations and talks about PXE boot challenges. There was no security, and you were talking to a DHCP server to get your IP address, and you could be easily man in the middle and all this, and there was no encryption or authentication or anything like that. And TFT timeouts were rampant, and you get a lot of UDP packet loss because UDP was a protocol that was transferring the image. So you drop one packet, and basically the whole image is ruined, and you would just your boot would just die. All right. Okay, and then we got the open source. Was there a question there? Are you seeing this?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought there was a question.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there a question?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
So the latest version, at least in 2015, was UFI 2.5, and when I say UFI, it stands for Universal Extensible Firmware Interface. So this is the replacement for the BIOS software that initially, the BIOS firmware that initially that comes with your laptop, is the first thing your laptop or desktop would boot. And it had, the BIOS firmware had major limitations. Number one being that it could not deal with a hard disk that was over 2.2 terabytes in size. So we needed a new one, and they came up with UFI 2.5. So it adds a bunch of cool features and support for HTTP boot, which is what I was interested in, so that is all right up my alley, and love it. And at the time he was presenting this, he had this phrase about the iPixie UFI vision has mostly been implemented. Well, that's because he had just finished it last night, and it wasn't currently part of the UFI standard. All right, so here's the UFI native HTTP boot protocol. You can boot from a URL. So using the HTTP boot wire protocol, you boot with a URL, and the target can be the EFI network boot program or a shrink wrapped ISO image. What the system will do is use that URL to download iPixie, and then IP will then chain load and be able to pull that image in and boot from it. All right, so turns out that IP or iPixie can be used in the data center to do bare metal provisioning and deployment of servers, do firmware updates, configure the firmware, do some automation and security, scalability, and it has its own ecosystem there. The latest version of UFI uses the best security practices, uses HTTPS for the protocol, so it adds a whole bunch of security and can scale out and grow exponentially. And he made the point that today's data center manageability interfaces are proprietary and do not meet all of these needs. So hence the need for a better solution, and so hence the need for UFI. Again, more boot challenges, TFTP timeouts. Yeah, we went over this. Native HTTP boot. Oh, sorry about that. This video right here is. I noticed this last night when I was watching it. The first 20 minutes are repeat. So you'll get to right about here, and then the whole presentation starts. No, first 15 minutes are repeated. So you get right to 15 minutes, and then the whole thing starts over again. So that's this is what is confusing me right here.
So would you recommend starting at 15 minutes?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Start at 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's, yeah, don't make the same mistake I did. Understand? Oh, okay. So, Mr. Wade talks about the RAM disk standard being incorporated into the UFI standard. Before this, there was no RAM disk standard, and it was just okay. It was just kind of assumed that the file was going to exist on a floppy drive or a CD-ROM or a disk somewhere. And they said, well, that's kind of crazy. Let's just be able to use a RAM disk. And it can also use the non-volatile DIMM firmware interface table, or NFIT. Don't know much about it, but anyway, HTTP boot is the emerging solution for modern data centers, and I think it'd be a great way to just home cook your own version of Linux and put it on a Raspberry Pi and make it accessible to the internet, and everybody could boot from it. Basically, kind of a pipe dream, but just like to put it out there. iPXE after UFI 2.5 is, well, it's an open source HTTP client and bootloader. Still requires chain loading, HTTP boot to iPXE, and then it runs iPXE to do the HTTP download. So it's kind of a hunky monkey dance there, but that's how it works. And yeah, Michael Brown is the iPXE maintainer that was able to do all this stuff. All right, he talks about Redfish being the RESTful interface for HTTPS, and it uses JSON format and secure HTTPS. And then he goes into why it would be great to use this on HP's ProLiant servers, because he works for HP, of course. So that is all just a big sales talk. Sorry about that, but you got any questions about booting over a network or the internet?
I did have, I don't know if it's those particular questions. Now, would your VM Linux and your iNet RAM FS be part of the download? Or?
They're two separate parts. So in the basically, when you burned one of those iPXE disks and started to boot from it, it was very simple, and it's just like you say. There was only two parts of it. The first one was the compressed version of a Linux kernel, which was VM Linux. It ends with a Z. Yep. And so it would take the kernel, and it has to load that first to be able to do anything. And then once the kernel loads, then it starts looking for the init, the initial RAM disk, or the init RD, and that's, so that would be on the CD-ROM too, or the DVD-ROM, or your boot drive, or whatever you got, and then so the kernel would be there, and it would pick up on that initial RD and load that, and then that would be your operating system.
Is there a standard port number? So you can, for going through a router?
Well, if it's HTTP, then it would just be port 80.
Okay.
Or HTTPS would be 443.
Yeah, HTTPS would be 443, but you could set it to be any port you want, and it might be, might be a better idea of, obscuring that port number if you don't want everybody in the world booting from your Raspberry Pi. Anyway, any other questions before I turn it over to? Okay, Shay's got a question.
Not a question. Earlier, I forget transfer protocol.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, there you go, Jace. You asked about AOE SAN. It's ATA over Ethernet.
ATA. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Robert.
That's a instead of SCSI, it's ATA over Ethernet.
Oh.
So Robert's question was would this be useful to load virtual machines? And yes. In fact, at the Clemson data center, I'm basically talking to Jace here. Ralph uses XCAT as a bootloader to load all the boot machines. So,
is XCAT a different implementation of iPXE, or?
Yes. I don't know much about it, but it's a way to do this. And I was surprised to learn that. So it is used in the data center, and it works really well. It doesn't work when the boot machine is turned off, as Ralph found out a couple of weeks ago. He was not happy about that. But yeah, caused an outage. But anyway, any other questions before I hand it over to Shay?
Do you have to have UEFI, or can you use the regular old BIOS?
I like using the old BIOS mainly because UEFI is still a grand mystery to me. It's just I'm much more familiar with the old BIOS format, but anyway, I was surprised to find that video from 2015 about HP and they basically doing the same thing that I discovered 10 years ago, is that booting over HTTP is awesome. It's fast and and it works.
So step me through this. If I got a brand new machine, I boot into the BIOS or the UEFI, and then I put in a URL. Then I go to the BIOS and say boot HTTP and give it a URL or something, or what?
Yeah. In this, let's see. Hold on. Where'd you go? It was a little bit before that. What they were describing is, booting to an HTTP URL or HTTPS, and that downloads an iPXE image, which is chain loaded, and then that iPXE image then turns around and loads another iPXE, which then goes out and gets the real HTTP boot image. It can't just go and get the HTTP boot image straight off the bat because it needs the iPXE firmware instructions to be able to manage everything and get get the table straight before the HTTP download can happen. Because when a computer first boots up, it really doesn't know. It doesn't know itself from a hole in the ground, and so it needs all that iPixie stuff.
Well, this all sounds delightfully organic.
The great Jim Salter has joined us, everyone.
I guess what I'm asking is there is this manual step that I have to put in that I have to type a URL.
Okay. You forced my hand. I'm gonna have to post a list to figure that one out. I didn't have much time to put this together because we had a cancellation. But anyway, yeah, I don't have a good answer for you, Jace. But all I know is it goes HTTP to iPixie to iPixie to HTTP, and that's the boot process. Jim's laughing.
Organic.
So I'm just thinking the Pixie implementations that I've used in the past, and the boot P, it's you just fire up a machine on the network, and it just knows through DHCP. The DHCP server says this is your boot P server, and it pulls it down from there.
Yep.
But that's DHCP.
And that's the way it worked with iPixie before, because the machine's got to get an IP address, and where's it going to get that? Well, it's got to get it from DHCP. So that's still there.
Jace, the key difference there is that with iPixie, it's not so much about the boot P. It's about the fact that what Pixie is really doing is it's just hitting the broadcast address. So if you're not on the same layer 2, you get no iPixie. Whereas if you do this HTTP thing, then you're still going to need some kind of magic to get the BIOS there, unless and until somebody builds this into the bootloader. But it allows you to have much fewer servers for these things and have a much greater reach, because now you can route it across subnets rather than everybody having to be on the same layer 2.
Thank you.
All right, what Jim said. Okay, any other questions on iPixie? I need to get out of this frying pan.
Boot from the cloud.
Boot from the cloud, yeah.
Definitely a great idea.
What is the initial step to get you started? Do you have to flash? I know it's mentioned one time flashing something into a network card or.
All right. So, all right. UFI replaces the BIOS, so it's got to get on your flashable firmware some way. And they're talking about 2.5 here, and again, this is 2015, so they could be up to something later by now. But yeah, it's 2.5. It's got to be flashed on your computer. And the computers that are running now are probably running UFI 2.4, maybe 2.5, and then you would just have it.
So that's built into UEFI that you can load in like a third party.
If it's 2.5, yeah.
Okay.
And it's even got a shell. It's got a shell specification, which it didn't have before. So that's interesting. I mean,
it's like back in the 8-bit days.
Yeah.
Got that interpreter in ROM, baby.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Pascal, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Or Fortran? Maybe it's Fortran. Pascal?
Oh,
the EFI shell.
I refuse to believe it's Fortran. Stop trolling, please. Hulu.
Yeah.
Next, you're going to tell me it's corn shell.
You think I'm joking? I think it's Pascal.
Shall we put this
just Google
to rest?
Pascal.
Yeah, I'm trying to escape out here. Come on.
So I can actually use this to put CPM on my enterprise grade server.
Somebody's going to make CPM useful one day. Exit full. All right, there we go. All right. Yeah. All right. So. Oh God.
UEFI Pascal.
Yeah. UEFI Pascal. Free Pascal wiki. Well, that kind of lends credence to what Jace was saying.
Yeah, I've been around.
FreePascal.org. Huh. Well, there's not a day that goes by that I don't learn something new about something new that's out there in the open source world. And
this isn't really saying that UFI is Pascal, though. It's just saying that you can make UFI targets with Pascal.
yeah,
It's not like, I don't even know what a Pascal shell would be. I mean, Pascal was a compiled language.
yeah.
And you can build the binaries in Pascal, and that may be a thing that a lot of people are doing, but it's not the same thing as saying that's what the shell is.
Yeah. That's definitely Pascal there. Okay.
Not good memories.
I once wrote artillery in Pascal for my senior project. And the whole thing could boot from a 400K floppy compiler and game.
My only real experience with Pascal was helping high school seniors with their Pascal homework as a junior when I had never touched the language. Just figuring it out from context.
It is easy to read. Yeah. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I did not answer your question there, Jace, but
just Google UFI shell and see if there's anything interesting that pops up.
All right. UFI shell. UFI shell. Intel? Is Intel the sponsor? I don't think they are. They're one of them, probably. UFI introduction. Brief history.
A couple of lines under where you clicked on the introduction, there was this line for shell.
Control F shell.
All right. We will answer this question. All right. That's it. All again.
No, keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Shell overview. First thing on the contents.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Screw that. Go straight to the commands.
Its own unique syntax. There you go.
Uh-oh.
That's pretty much what I would have expected.
Own unique syntax. All right.
The fact that it says similar to DOS and Linux shell kind of tells you everything you need to know about that.
They might be trying to be POSIX compliant or something.
I don't think they're trying to be anything compliant. Its own unique.
Maybe it was Tickle.
Okay. Yeah, I could go with that.
You're going to have to buy me a drink first.
But you're right. I can't find anything either that says that it is certainly one or the other.
Oh, that's the other thing about UFI is that this is not UFI is not a command line only thing. It can have a whole graphical user interface, which is kind of interesting for a BIOS. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think
nothing tickles me more than needing to have the mouse hooked up just to get through the freaking BIOS.
Yeah.
Another opportunity to drill down through multiple layers in order to find the one thing that you're actually interested in. Only to have it described in terms that no rational person would conceive of something like that being referred to.
Yeah. There was one member of the Linux user group here in Columbia that had a had a really neat machine that could just didn't even need to boot from the hard drive. It had its own separate flash area with, I believe, a custom Linux distribution on it that had a web browser, and
that was Stuart.
That was it. What?
That was Stuart, Charleston guy. He is like super into like Pixie, all the things. I think his name's Stuart.
Stuart Anderson?
Sounds right.
With the little microcontrollers and stuff.
Kind of a big guy. He did like some work with I think like the Battleship Memorial or whatever. Not Battleship. You know what I'm talking about. The USS whatever the hell down there off the coast in Charleston.
Yeah, the Yorktown.
Yeah, the Yorktown. There we go. Yeah, he was all about like Pixie everything. Like he was setting up his clients with like all the desktops Pixie booting.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to talk to him.
I don't think that was Stuart Anderson. Somebody else.
It was Louis Cawthorn.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I think he had an Alienware rig or something that had the special mode. He didn't want to boot into the hard drive and mess with it all. He could just boot right into this web browser thing that was, some Linux distribution, and you just, surf for that and not worry about it. Anyway.
A lot of UFI implementations have web browsers now.
Is that what it is?
Bizarre.
Maybe it was a UFI implementation. Who knows?
No potential exploits there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, if you did get exploited, you could just push the power button and hopefully it didn't figure out how to get your hard drive.
You can always push the power button and hope.
Yeah.
Although really at that point you might be better served yanking the plug out of the back.
Nowadays the power button is negotiable.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we beat that horse to death. Shay had Shay's kind of in a similar boat because I was trying to ping him for a presentation, late in the game. But he had a couple topics that he's been doing lately. One was WGET from a camera. You want to tell us about that?
Okay.
You want to sit here? Yeah.
So this is kind of as much to get suggestions on how to go further with this as it is on showing you what I've done. All right, wait. One of these is minimized. That one must be minimized. Okay.
And you doing a lot of minimizing.
Okay.
Those animations make my freaking teeth itch. Itch all down through a bottleneck. Yes. That's what makes me feel reassured.
All right. How do I get?
Makes a bottleneck.
Yeah.
See, I'm
click on.
I'm kind of Apple impaired. I'm sorry. Whoops, I'm doing something I don't want to do there.
Hold on.
Okay.
Just minimize everything.
What you want to do is drag all those things in the trash.
Yeah.
Right there.
There you go.
Go away. Go away.
And just leave me one browser up that I can type on.
I can see Jim just threw up a little bit in his mouth. I got a lot of stuff going on.
Wow.
Oh man. All right. No wonder it's getting a little bit slow. No. There's one guy in a Slashshot thread that posted a question like, I've got 1,600 tabs open. Is that too many? And he wasn't kidding either. He had 1,600. I'm thinking I have about close to that many now. Come on. Yeah, I'm Apple impaired too. Somebody out there is screaming, just hit control whatever to minimize all.
I'm pretty sure that would be hit Apple whatever.
Okay, yeah, that's right. All right. That was awful.
Shay's like, okay, great. Now I got a desktop. What do I do with that?
Okay. All right, so I'm going.
Which one of these pixels is Firefox?
All right. Oh, here we go.
Control T gets you in the chat. There you go. Or Ample T.
Okay. So to give you the background on what was going on, I have several web cameras around and they upload to FTP servers. And so I was using FileZilla to download the pictures. And then once I downloaded them, I'd have it delete them. And, but it, you know, sometimes it takes quite a while. And, you know, if I download them and then wait a long time before I delete them, then sometimes it deletes some that I didn't want, you know, it deleted some that didn't get downloaded. And so I have to kind of sit there until it finishes downloading and then right away tell it to delete. So that was one thing I was trying to get around, where I didn't have to sit there and wait on it to download everything. And then I could just bring it up and have it download and skip any that are already there and then delete them all at that point. So I was looking at putting in bash scripts to just get these FTP files. And I found one. Let me see if I can get it in here. Might be quicker for me to search for it.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, you use two fingers to scroll up on the two fingers. There you go. Oops. No, not that finger.
Oh, the jokes you're not supposed to make.
Oh, they have to be this way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, it's there.
Okay. No. Well, Stack Overflow is usually pretty good. Let's see what this one is. This isn't the site I was looking for, but you
can
Just tap it.
just tap it. One finger tap.
There we go.
All right.
All right. Well, this one's a lot more involved than what I was getting into. But basically, I was doing, just a standard FTP with maybe a dash R or something to get subfolders, and got it working. But then I ran across doing it with WGET, which worked a lot better, because you don't have to parse through WGET will handle the directory structure and all that.
Well, what is the thing that what is the other end of the FTP? Is that like a Linode or?
There's one that's nearlyfreespeech.net or something, and another one that's one that I have at my office.
Because I mean, if you can get a shell on it, it seems like you're really making things a lot harder than you have to. Just rsync it.
I could do one at the one at my office. I don't control. I'm just using it. But the one, the other one, that is a thought. I hadn't thought about doing an rsync.
It'd be a whole lot. A, it would be easier, and B, it would be a lot more secure because FTP.
Well, and that's one of the issues I had with this, is that if you're putting FTP commands in a script, your password and username are in plain text unless you do some kind of obfuscation, and even then, it's kind of trivial. Trivial to break it if you get a hold of
to be
it.
fair, you're probably broadcasting them in clear text over the internet anyway.
Using FTP, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Well, that's one of the reasons I was going to talk about this, was to get other suggestions on using it.
Yeah, that would by far be my answer. Is just if you can get a shell on the remote end, use rsync. If you can't get a shell on the remote end, switch to something you get a shell on and use rsync. Because it does exactly what you're asking for. It gets all the crap that you don't already have and skips the stuff that you do.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, do you have something on your screen? Because we're just seeing Ben Francis has connection issues.
Oh.
Sorry.
Hold on. Let me get. Sorry.
It's the Jitsi.
All right. So there we go.
It's because you minimized it.
I guess. Yeah. All right. So can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just use Chrome.
Okay. Well, that's kind of, like I said, this was something kind of thrown together at the last minute, and that was like I said, as much to get ideas on using it or get ideas on handling the situation better. And that, I think that's going to be kind of a new paradigm for my scripts now, is to work that out. I did run across something recently that I did with a server I put up at my house. There is an XINET-D, I think, isn't that XINET-D, XINET-D.
Yeah.
And so I can just boot this computer up, and it's not running rsync, but I can, on the client, I can start an rsync, and when the XINET-D sees that traffic on that port, it starts up rsync to handle the transfer, and then when it's over, it shuts down. And so you're not sitting there running an rsync server all the time. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is like really, really old school. Like you were time warped back to the 90s. Right?
Okay. Well, it's new to me.
Basically, that's how daemons used to be run. You didn't have a daemon for every service. You would have, the idea was that INET-D was the super server. You would tell INET-D, listen on this port, and when a request comes in on this port, fire up this application and tie the two together. And that's how everything got done. Okay. But that's been a long time. As far as rsync goes, the way rsync is normally used, now you can run rsync in daemon mode, where it actually runs its own daemon on, I want to say it's 1723. I can't remember for sure.
Something like that. Yeah.
But that's not how most people use it. Rsync can be fired up over an SSH tunnel. You can just say rsync John at John's box : and then the path on John's box, and it will SSH in and fire up the rsync client on the other end.
Okay, well,
all in one swell food.
That may be what's happening then, because when I do the rsync, my rsync command has the SS. I don't know if it actually says SSH in it, but it has the name and the path on the remote machine.
Some people will specify it with there's like a transport argument for SSH where you can for rsync, where you can specify to use SSH, and like here's the path to the SSH command on this end, on that end. You don't really need all that on any vaguely normal box. You just say rsync user at hostname : path, and that's it. It will shell in, it will fire up rsync on the remote end, and it will handle everything over the SSH tunnel.
Okay. Well,
now, if you use 2 colons instead of 1 colon, that means you're using rsync daemon mode on the other end, and that you would have to have rsync D fired.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe I'm actually doing that. The XINET stuff I did isn't actually happening. It's just the command I'm running is doing the SSH and
Correct.
starting rsync on the other end.
Correct. You're
Okay.
just SSHing on port 22, and then once the SSH session is established, then it fires up the rsync commands on both ends. They talk across the tunnel and do their magic, then close
Okay.
everything down.
All right. Learning something new today. All right.
Anybody's got rsync questions? I'm your dude.
Now you said before that it's got to read the other side, the entire other side first before it can do the diffs.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's not going to be an issue here. This is exactly the kind of workload that rsync is designed for,
Yeah.
because all it's going to do really is it's going to stat all those files on both ends to get name, size, and date stamp. It's going to compare them, and anything it doesn't have on this end, it's going to grab it. Now, in theory, if Shay were to control C it halfway through a file, then it would be able to say, oh, okay, well, I have this file, but it doesn't quite match. Now let me do a diff of that file and only move the change data across the network. But you're only talking about, maybe 5 meg JPEG files, probably a lot smaller than that.
Oh yeah, most of them
So
are under a meg.
there's not a significant I/O workload there. You're adding a little bit of I/O workload to save bandwidth. But you could also turn that off. You can do a -W argument, which means whole files only, and it won't ever diff things like that. It just checks the date stamps and sizes, and if they don't match, then it updates it from the source.
Okay.
Or on the target if you're pushing rather than pulling, because rsync can go either way.
All right. Good idea.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah, you would just basically say, rsync Shay at remote box : path to files. You would use I would recommend the H, A, and V arguments for verbose and human readable and archive. Archive means it will grab all subdirectories and it will keep all the date stamps and timestamps and whatever intact. That's it. You're done.
That if my memory is correct, that is what I'm doing. Yeah.
And that'll be a lot faster and more reliable than whipping up your own thing to go through and do effectively the same thing by wgetting just the raw directory and getting a list of files and comparing that to what you got and figuring out what to get or what not to get.
Mm-hmm.
That's very much reinventing the wheel.
Okay. Good to know. Well, that's heading me off in a new direction on my WGET. I had mentioned to Ben that I've been working on a VPN with using a Raspberry Pi, but I'm not really quite far enough along with that to talk about it. And it's really more of a test case, a proof of concept more than anything, because I have a really slow internet connection at home. And so it's really more just to see if I can do it, not so much that I need to do it.
Well, they're well matched because the Raspberry Pi is really slow at crypto. So
Yeah. Right.
No bottlenecks.
Yeah, exactly. Your components are tuned to work together according to spec.
It's a great HTTP server.
Yeah.
Which model of Pi is it?
Well, I believe that one's a 3, maybe a 3+. I'm not sure. It's
Okay. Those are actually reasonably capable. I want to say OpenVPN with the default crypto settings will probably get around 30 megabits over a Raspberry Pi 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now the older ones, you'd be lucky to get 5.
Yeah. I think it is a 3, but that's way more than my internet bandwidth at home.
Yeah.
I've got the in fact, I don't know if they even offer this anymore. It used to be called the Everyday Low Price Plan, and it was $15 a month.
Oh yeah, I got that one.
Well,
Yeah.
I got a letter from them saying, yeah, we're not going to raise your price. And then about 2 months later, I got a letter saying we're raising your price. So now it's $20 a month.
Well, if you haven't renegotiated that since Spectrum acquired Time Warner, you really ought to call in, because they are offering more bandwidth for less money. But they ain't gonna do it unless you call in and say, hey, let's talk about what new plans I can get.
Okay.
And ideally, you want to hit the forums first and find out exactly what's there, because when I called to renegotiate mine, I had the old Time Warner 50 megabit, and I knew from Patrick Blake that they were doing 100 by 10 now instead of the 50 by 5, and he had gotten it for less money. But when I called in initially and I got the The first call center, they wanted to raise my rate from like $90 to $130. And I was like, whoa, no, I know I'm supposed to be able to get this for just $80. And we beat around the bush for quite a while, and finally she got really exasperated. She was waiting for me to give her the keywords that would allow her to transfer me to the different call center that could do what I wanted. And I wasn't coming up with it. So she said, so sir, what you're telling me is you want more bandwidth for less money. And I'm like, man, you're making me sound like a dick here. But then I just said, yeah, I guess I am. She said, okay, thank you. Let me transfer you. Then I got the American call center, and they were very pleasant, and they immediately gave me 100 by 10 for $80 versus the 90 I'd been paying, with no further ado. But yeah, you want to know what the plans are and call in. And my business clients have frequently been going from like $300 a month down to 110 with no monthly contract or anything. So don't just keep limping by on the thing you set up 4 or 5 years ago.
What is 80 by 10 mean?
No.
80 down, 10 up.
Well, that would mean that, but I didn't say that.
Okay.
That's $80 versus $110.
Oh,
The whole plan, the top plan on Time Warner was 50 by 5, 50 down, 5 up. The top reasonably priced plan on Spectrum is 100 by 10, which you can get standalone for I can't remember now if it's $69 or $79 I'm paying. It's less than what I was paying Time Warner. They do have a 200 by 10 plan. I think it's 200 by 10, not 200 by 20. But I mean, you're like up to $180 at that point. And that was where I drew the line and said, nope, I'm good with 100 by 10.
right.
Be honest, the 100 by 10 still feels like freaking magic to me anyway most of the time. I'm like, oh, look at that Ubuntu ISO downloading like 9 megabytes a second.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to give you $90 more a month to have that number be bigger. I'm good.
All right. So that was, I mean, like I said, that kind of covers what I had. I mean, this.
Okay, well, that's good then. And we shouldn't go longer if we don't need to. So, Jace, you got anything neat you learned over last month, or what?
I'm sorry, anything what?
Anything interesting?
Anything interesting, yeah?
Oh, I was actually looking forward to the Git presentation, and I was going to show off how I learned how to use Git bisect last weekend. It's really cool.
Well, Mahai said he can present it next month.
So he will talk about Git next month.
Yeah.
All right, great. Looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. So we got next month too. Okay. That's all we got from here.
Well, thank you, Ben and Shay. That was wonderful. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see what I can post to the list about links and stuff.
Yeah, if you could put a link to that video, I really want to watch it.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Talk to y'all later.
Take care. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Look up Don Way.
Yeah, Don Way. I should probably just do that right now. That is is this it?
What was that? That was just up. It said, "Welcome to the South Carolina Linux Users Group by Galt Sculpts."
The Upstate Carolina.
Upstate Carolina. Yeah.
The Galt Sculpt stuff. That's Jeremy.
That's Jeremy. Yeah, he's Mr.
Rand.
Yeah, Ayn Rand.
Well, a long time ago, there used to be a PBS here in town